All right, so get this. We're going to do a deep dive into something you probably take for granted every single day.
Okay.
The Earth spinning on its axis.
Yeah.
You know, that whole 24-hour cycle thing?
Right.
What if I told you that we are actually messing with that spin?
It sounds incredible, doesn't it? But the data is clear. Human activity is measurably impacting Earth's tilt.
Okay, back up for a second. I know the Earth is tilted. That's what gives us seasons, right?
Yeah.
But how much are we talking about, and how can we possibly be shifting something that massive?
You're right. Earth's tilted at about 23.44 degrees. And for a long time, we assumed that was pretty much constant.
Right.
But recent research has found that this tilt, also known as obliquity, isn't as fixed as we thought. The craziest part, one of the biggest culprits behind this shift, is something you probably use every day: water.
Hold on, water, like from our faucets?
Not just any water. We're talking about groundwater, the stuff hidden deep beneath the surface that we tap into for drinking and irrigation. Turns out we've been pumping it out at an astonishing rate, something like 23 million cubic kilometers in recent decades.
Wow. Okay, to be honest, I never really thought about where groundwater goes after we use it.
Yeah.
But how does that cause the Earth to tilt differently?
Well, imagine the Grand Canyon. We've basically pumped out enough groundwater to fill it twice over.
Wow.
All that water ends up in the oceans, shifting a massive amount of weight across the planet. And when you change the distribution of mass on that scale, it affects how Earth spins, including its tilt.
So it's like taking a spinning top and sticking a wad of gum on one side. It's going to wobble differently, right?
Exactly. It's a simplified analogy.
Sure.
But you've got the right idea, and the truly mind-blowing part is the sheer amount of water. We're talking about 2,150 billion tons of groundwater redistribution.
Whoa.
Is enough to have a measurable effect on Earth's tilt.
That's insane. I mean, 2,150 billion tons. Is there any way to put that into a perspective that my brain can actually handle?
Well, think of it this way. 1 ton is roughly the weight of a small car. Now imagine 2,150 billion cars piled up.
Oh my gosh.
That's the scale of the mass we've shifted just through groundwater use.
Okay, now my brain is officially hurting, but wait, if all this groundwater is messing with the Earth's tilt, is that even noticeable?
Right.
Like, do we see the effects of this in our daily lives?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
These changes might seem small, but they can have real-world consequences.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
Take GPS, for example. That system relies on satellites orbiting Earth. And those satellites need to be precisely positioned to give you accurate directions. But if Earth's tilt changes even slightly, it can throw off those satellite positions, potentially leading to errors in GPS readings.
So my GPS could lead me astray because of something as seemingly unrelated as groundwater extraction.
It might sound far-fetched,
Yeah.
but that's the reality of how interconnected Earth's systems are. And it's not just GPS. Other precise systems, like financial algorithms that rely on split-second timing, could also be affected.
Really?
Even something as fundamental as global timekeeping, which impacts everything from scientific research to telecommunications, can be thrown off by these subtle shifts in Earth's movements.
Now I'm starting to get a little nervous. So we've been pumping out insane amounts of groundwater, shifting the Earth's weight around, and potentially messing with all sorts of technology that we rely on daily.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing this isn't the whole story, right?
You're right. There's more to this puzzle.
Okay.
Remember all that talk about melting ice caps?
Yeah.
Well, that plays a role too.
Okay, this is starting to feel like a domino effect. Before we get to the melting ice, I'm curious, how much has this groundwater business actually changed the Earth's tilt?
A recent study found that between 1993 and 2010, Earth's rotational pole actually shifted by nearly 80 centimeters.
Wow.
Due to a combination of factors.
Okay.
To give you a sense of scale, imagine the Eiffel Tower lying on its side. That's roughly how much the axis on which our planet spins has moved.
Wow. Okay, so we're not just talking about some theoretical microscopic wobble. This is a real measurable change.
Exactly.
But you mentioned other factors are at play. Let's talk about those melting ice caps now, because I have a feeling this story is about to get even wilder. Okay, so we've established that pumping groundwater is basically like rearranging the furniture on planet Earth, causing it to wobble differently.
Yeah.
But you mentioned melting ice caps also play a role. How does that fit into all of this?
Well, as global temperatures rise, those massive ice sheets in Greenland and Antarctica are melting at an alarming rate.
Right.
We're talking about gigatons of ice turning into water and flowing into the oceans every year. And just like with groundwater, this redistribution of mass affects Earth's tilt.
So it's basically the same idea, move a bunch of weight around and the planet's spin gets a little wonky.
Precisely. But there's another layer to this when it comes to melting ice.
Okay.
You see, ice sheets exert immense pressure on the Earth's crust. As they melt, that pressure is relieved, and the landmass underneath actually starts to rebound upward.
Wait, so the ground itself is moving like it's bouncing back after being squashed by all that ice for centuries?
Exactly. It's a phenomenon called glacial isostatic adjustment. and it can have a subtle but measurable impact on Earth's tilt as well.
This is blowing my mind. Okay, so we've got groundwater being pumped out, ice caps melting, and land masses literally rising up from the depths. It's like a planetary makeover gone wrong.
It's a rather dramatic way to put it,
Yeah.
but it highlights the profound impact we're having on Earth's systems. And we haven't even touched on some of the other ways human activity is affecting the planet's movements.
Oh, there's more. I feel like I've already been hit with a fire hose of information.
There's always more to learn. Remember how we talked about large dams?
Yeah.
And their ability to alter Earth's rotation by milliseconds per century?
Yeah, that was already pretty mind-boggling. What else is there?
Well, think about deforestation. When we clear vast tracts of forest, we're not just removing trees. We're changing the landscape's ability to retain water. This can lead to changes in water distribution, and you guessed it, further impacts on Earth's tilt.
So even something as seemingly unrelated as cutting down trees can ultimately contribute to the Earth wobbling differently. It's amazing how everything is connected.
Exactly. And the same goes for urbanization. Those massive concrete jungles we call cities actually have a surprising amount of weight. Some scientists believe that the sheer mass of urban areas could even be subtly affecting Earth's rotation.
Hold on, you're telling me that the weight of our cities could actually slow down the planet? I mean, I know cities are big, but come on.
It might sound outlandish, but the mass of all those buildings, roads, and infrastructure adds up. We're talking billions of tons of material concentrated in relatively small areas. It's a fascinating area of research and one that highlights the interconnectedness of Earth's systems.
Okay, I'm officially convinced that humans are like the toddlers of planet Earth. We're just running around messing with everything without fully understanding the consequences.
That's a rather amusing analogy and not entirely inaccurate. But it's important to remember that, unlike toddlers,
Yeah.
we have the capacity to understand the impact of our actions and make more responsible choices.
So let's talk about that. Knowing what we now know, what can we actually do to mitigate these impacts on Earth's tilt and rotation? Is it even possible to reverse some of the changes we've already set in motion?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The good news is that awareness is the first step. By understanding the complex interplay of factors at play, we can start to make more informed decisions about how we manage our resources and impact the planet.
Okay, but what does that look like in practice? Give me some concrete examples.
Well, for starters, we need to address the root cause of many of these issues. Climate change, transitioning away from fossil fuels and embracing renewable energy sources is crucial for curbing global warming, which in turn will help slow down the melting of ice caps and potentially stabilize Earth's tilt.
So basically, if we can get our act together on climate change, we can tackle a whole bunch of other problems at the same time, including this wonky Earth situation.
Precisely. It's all interconnected. And it's not just about energy. We need to rethink our approach to water management, too. Reducing our reliance on groundwater, investing in water-efficient technologies, and exploring alternative sources of fresh water are all essential steps.
That makes sense, but these are all pretty big systemic changes. What about us regular folks? Are there things we can do in our daily lives that can actually make a difference?
Absolutely. Individual actions might seem small in isolation, but when multiplied across millions of people, they can have a significant impact. Simple things like conserving water at home, choosing sustainable products, reducing our energy consumption, and supporting businesses that prioritize environmental responsibility. These choices all contribute to a more sustainable future.
Okay, I'm feeling a little more hopeful now. It's good to know that we're not completely powerless in this situation. We can all be part of the solution. But let's be honest, changing habits is hard, especially when it comes to things like our diets or how we get around. What motivates people to actually make these changes?
I think it's different for everyone. Some people are driven by a deep concern for the environment and a desire to protect our planet for future generations. Others are motivated by the potential cost savings or health benefits associated with a more sustainable lifestyle.
So it's not just about altruism. There are tangible benefits for individuals as well.
Absolutely, and it's important to highlight those benefits. Sustainability isn't about deprivation or sacrifice. It's about creating a better, healthier, and more fulfilling way of life for ourselves and future generations.
I love that framing. It's not about giving things up. It's about making choices that benefit everyone, including the planet. Okay, so we talked about renewable energy, water, conservation, individual actions. Are there any other promising solutions or innovations on the horizon that you're particularly excited about?
One area that I find particularly fascinating is regenerative agriculture.
Okay.
This approach to farming focuses on rebuilding soil health, increasing biodiversity, and sequestering carbon in the ground. It has the potential to not only help mitigate climate change, but also enhance food security and create more resilient ecosystems.
So instead of just trying to reduce our impact, we're actually working to restore and regenerate the systems we've disrupted.
Exactly. It's a paradigm shift from simply doing less harm to actively doing good. And it's a powerful example of how we can harness human ingenuity to create a more sustainable and thriving future.
That's inspiring. It sounds like we have a lot of work to do, but there's also a lot to be hopeful about.
I agree. The challenges are significant, but so is our human capacity for innovation and collaboration. By working together, we can create a future where both humanity and the planet can thrive.
Before we get to that future, there's one more piece of this puzzle I want to explore. We've talked about how these shifts in Earth's tilt and rotation can mess with things like GPS and global timekeeping. Can you elaborate on that? What are the real-world consequences of these seemingly subtle changes?
Let's start with GPS. This system relies on a network of satellites orbiting Earth.
Right.
And those satellites need to be precisely positioned to provide accurate location data. If Earth's tilt changes even slightly, it can affect the accuracy of those satellite positions, potentially leading to errors in GPS readings.
So my navigation system could lead me astray because of something as seemingly unrelated as groundwater extraction or melting ice caps. That's kind of scary when you think about it.
It highlights the interconnectedness of our world, doesn't it? And it's not just about personal navigation.
Right.
Imagine the implications for aircraft navigation, ship routing, or even emergency response systems that rely on GPS to locate people in need. Even a small error could have significant consequences.
Okay, that's unsettling. What about global timekeeping? How does that get affected by all of this?
Global timekeeping is all about maintaining a highly accurate and synchronized system of time across the world. But as Earth's rotation changes even by milliseconds, it can throw off this delicate balance.
And that matters because
so much of our modern world relies on precise timekeeping, financial transactions, scientific experiments, telecommunications networks, power grids. All these systems depend on synchronized clocks to function smoothly. If those clocks start to drift out of sync, it can lead to disruptions and even failures.
we've already talked about the 2015 leap second incident, which caused glitches in various computer systems. Are we likely to see more of those types of incidents in the future?
It's certainly a possibility. As human activities continue to impact Earth's rotation, the need for leap seconds or other adjustments to our timekeeping systems will likely increase. And with that comes the potential for more glitches, disruptions, and even cascading failures across our increasingly interconnected technological infrastructure.
It sounds like we're walking a tightrope between our reliance on technology and the unintended consequences of our actions on Earth's systems.
That's a very apt analogy, and it highlights the need for a more holistic approach. We can't simply keep pushing the limits of technological advancement without considering the broader impacts on our planet. We need to find a way to balance progress with sustainability, innovation, with responsibility.
That's a powerful message and a fitting note to end part 2 of our deep dive on. But before we move on to part 3, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed so far. We've explored the interconnectedness of Earth's systems, the surprising ways human activities are impacting those systems, and the potential consequences for our technology and infrastructure. What stands out to you as the most important takeaway from this discussion? For me, it's the sheer scale of it all that's really stuck with me. I mean, who would have thought that something as simple as turning on the faucet or driving to work could have a ripple effect on something as massive as the Earth's tilt and rotation?
It's a humbling realization, isn't it? We often think of Earth as this unchanging, unyielding sphere. But the reality is that our actions have consequences that extend far beyond our immediate surroundings.
It really makes you realize that we're not just inhabitants of this planet, we're active participants in its evolution. And that's both a daunting responsibility and an incredible opportunity.
Exactly. We have the power to shape the future for better or for worse, and the choices we make today will have a profound impact on the world we leave behind for future generations.
So let's talk about those choices. We've discussed some potential solutions like transitioning to renewable energy, reducing our reliance on groundwater, and embracing more sustainable practices. But are those solutions enough to asking and turn the tide? Are we even capable of undoing the damage we've already done?
It's a complex question, and there's no easy answer. Some changes, like the melting of ice caps, are already well underway and will continue to have an impact for centuries to come. But that doesn't mean we should give up hope. By taking action now, we can mitigate the worst effects of climate change and create a more sustainable future.
Okay, but let's be realistic. Those solutions we talked about, renewable energy, sustainable practices and all that, they require massive systemic changes, right? It's not like we can just flip a switch and suddenly everything is green and eco-friendly.
You're right, it's not a quick fix. It requires a fundamental shift in our mindset, our values, and our priorities. And that's a process that takes time, education, and a willingness to embrace new ways of thinking and doing things.
So how do we get there? How do we inspire that kind of change on a global scale?
I think it starts with individual action. Each one of us has the power to make choices that contribute to a more sustainable future. whether it's reducing our energy consumption, choosing eco-friendly products, or simply being more mindful of our impact on the environment.
But individual actions can feel so small, especially when you're up against these massive global problems. Does it really make a difference if one person decides to recycle or bike to work instead of driving?
Absolutely. Every single action has a ripple effect. When enough people make those choices, it creates a collective momentum that can drive larger systemic changes. Think about the movement to ban plastic straws. It started with individuals raising awareness and making conscious choices, and eventually it led to widespread policy changes.
That's a great point. It reminds me of that quote, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has."
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that these individual actions often have tangible benefits for ourselves as well. Reducing our energy consumption saves money, choosing healthier foods improves our well-being, and spending more time in nature reduces stress and enhances our connection to the planet.
So it's not about sacrificing our quality of life. It's about making choices that benefit both ourselves and the planet. It's a win-win situation.
Precisely. And I think that's a crucial message to convey. Sustainability isn't about deprivation. It's about creating a better, healthier, and more fulfilling way of life for everyone.
Well said. It's definitely given me a lot to think about, and I'm sure our listeners are feeling the same way. As we wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating and sometimes unsettling world of human impact on Earth's tilt and rotation, what's the one key takeaway you hope people will walk away with?
For me, it's the understanding that we are all interconnected. Our actions, no matter how small they may seem, have a ripple effect on the planet and on each other. By embracing our role as stewards of this incredible planet, we can create a future where both humanity and nature can thrive.
Beautifully said. And that's a wrap on another deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed this journey into the unexpected ways we're shaping our planet. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.